Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second webinar in our ChatGPT webinar series, Supercharge Content and Process Building. My name is Angelika O'Reilly, and I am the Head of Customer Success here at Success Hacker. I am filling in for Andrew Marks, who is currently enjoying his vacation. Joining me today is Mickey Powell, the co-founder and head of go-to-market at UpdateAI and our ChatGPT expert for today. This free learning event is being hosted by Success Coaching, the team that brought you the first accredited customer success professional development training program. Before we start, we want to let you know that the early registration is open for our fall 2023 12-week Certified Customer Success Manager Coaching program, and you may use code EARLYREG-15 to save $500 when you register by July 31st. And Ashley will drop that code in the chat for you. To find out more about our training and coaching offerings, please visit us at successcoaching.co. And the schedule for our upcoming events and our public training courses will be found at successcoaching.co under the events tab at the top of the page. Before we begin, there are a few housekeeping items that we would like to remind you of. First, please place your questions in the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen. Attendees are given the ability to upvote, so please upvote any questions you would like to see answered by our panelists. And also, please keep all the chat and commentary in the chat panel. We will be taking questions later during the webcast, so please use the Q&A functionality found at the bottom of your screen to ask a question for me and Mickey. All right, Mickey, I'll pass it over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Angelika. So we're talking today about using ChatGPT and CS. This is the second of 3 webinars. The first was more of a beginner's guide. So we're going to get into a little bit more advanced topics here today, and I'm super excited to chat with all of you about it. But really quick, I just want to tell you a little bit about UpdateAI for those that don't know about us. We believe in making customer success the heart of every organization. And I care about this because I've been in customer success for 10 years. I started actually as an SDR, didn't like that. It was hard. Moved to customer success. I didn't even know what it was, and then worked my way up through leadership, CS operations. And now I'm working and co-founded UpdateAI, which has built tools for customer success. And specifically what we have built, the easiest way to think about it, I tell people, is like, imagine what Gong did for sales. We're doing that for customer success. So if you're feeling burnt out, you got back-to-back meetings, you're trying to keep up with all your notes, you're trying to focus on your customer. If that is too much for you right now, and you want to save time, energy, and maybe your sanity, come check us out. We're free for you to use with our pro trial for 2 weeks. And if you love it, you can actually continue to use it on a basic plan without paying anything. We do, of course, have team plans. Ashley is going to drop the sign up link in the webinar or in the chat window where you can sign up. If you have any questions you'd like to chat with me directly, I'm happy to do so. And then lastly, I do want to say, if you would like a copy of the ebook that I wrote that has a ton of this content, though it's already a little outdated because things move fast, you can head over to chatgpt.update.ai for a free copy of the ebook. So let's jump right in. Here's what we're going to cover today. We have the content and process building and how these are key to scaling customer success. We know we're trying to all do more with less right now. Then we're going to talk about what are frameworks and why they matter. If you were on the beginner's guide session, you know a little bit about that, but we're going to go deeper. I'm going to give you a live demonstration of applying frameworks for process building as well as for content. And then I will include and give this to Ashley and the team to send out afterwards a cheat sheet of the different prompts and techniques that I used here today. So first, I actually want to play a little bit of a game with everybody on the call. Angelika, did you ever watch Price is Right?
I loved Price is Right. I'm pretty sure that's how I spent the majority of my summers as a kid.
Fantastic. So I am going to throw up a number, 7.1 billion. And I want everybody to guess, what is this number? What does it represent? Just throw in the chat what you think it is. I'll give you some ideas. Is this people? Is this words? Is this gallon of milk? I love it. People would be the obvious answer, so it's a little bit of a misdirection there. Now, we're all in customer success. So the answer actually is that is the estimated annual words generated by customer success managers in their meetings. I use LinkedIn data plus data here at UpdateAI to estimate that we as a whole profession are generating annually over 7 billion words in our conversations. So that is a lot of hours spent on calls. I've contributed a little bit myself to that. And of course, we're having all these conversations. We're all super busy. And unfortunately, right now, we're actually being asked to do even more with less, more meetings, more accounts, more tasks. And this is pretty dangerous. If you're a leader or if you've been in this situation where you're having to handle more accounts because teams are smaller, this starts to push us towards burnout as we shift that over to the left, more accounts for less people. And that's kind of risky and it's no fun. And I've been there. I really don't like it. So we have to figure out some ways to work smarter, right? That's easy to say, but luckily ChatGPT, this is something that's going to really help us. But we have to rethink how we leverage our skills as CSMs because we have a ton of knowledge, skills, expertise. So how can we rethink that? And how can we do it in a way that isn't just adding more work? So there's two things that I think we can do to take what we know and leverage our skills. Number one is producing content. And number two is building processes. And I'm going to explain what I mean by both of these, but these are the two areas that we're going to focus on today. So what I mean by content. So simply put, I believe that content is meant to do one of four things. Number one, educate, or entertain, or persuade, or inspire. So if you're talking with a customer, if you're having a conversation, sending an email, most likely it is designed to do one of these four things. And we do it all the time, sending emails, Slack conversations, having meetings, all of that good stuff. But the question is how do we scale this? How do we do more of this without just throwing more time and more people at that problem? We'll get into that in a second, but that's what I believe the goal of content is and the main question we're trying to answer. And then, of course, there's process. And CSMs love a good process, right, Angelika? In fact, most of us as CSMs, we actually like to be involved in building out processes. And I just want to ask, to myself, what's kind of the point, right? What are we trying to get out of processes? So number one is we're trying to increase quality. So we're doing that to make sure that when we're working on something, the quality of that outcome is better. The second is we want to make it faster. So, hey, it took us a long time the first time we did this, but the second, third, fourth time, we want to be able to do it faster, more accurately. And then the last is we want to decrease failure. So, hey, this is the process that works. Follow this. You're going to get a better outcome every single time. But again, there's an important question. How do we build and launch these faster? Because again, we don't have a lot more time. So there's big questions around process and content that are holding us back. With content, it's who's going to work on this? What's good or bad content? Who's going to put that together? When will there be time to do it? And who are we writing this for? Who's the content for? In customer success, we deal with executives, we deal with individuals, different departments, and everywhere in between. So if we're writing up content for an executive, it may not be applicable to somebody else in a different team and vice versa. And for processes, we have to figure out, okay, let's analyze what's happening. Do we need to make a process? Who's going to build that process? How long does it take? Can we train our team on this process? Do we have to set aside time to do that? Is it working? Again, a bunch of questions that are holding us back from scaling our teams, from scaling our skills and experience around what we can do as a team. So as leaders, as CSMs, we all want these, but there's already too much on our plates. And this is where I think ChatGPT plus frameworks, this concept of frameworks is key. And to kind of break down what I mean by frameworks, common frameworks we see all the time. A few of them are like to-do lists. So when you're doing a to-do list, that's a framework. When you're talking about something and you're covering the who, what, where, when, why, that's another framework. Or budgeting, that's a framework. So simply put, in my eyes, frameworks are just an established approach to something, to a project or a problem, something that is a common and well thought out framework. And even like success plans, for instance, are a framework that we use in customer success all the time. So why does this all matter? Well, I think the solution to scaling CS without having to just do more work, that's why I call this out specifically. We have those two areas, ChatGPT, which is fast. You don't have to wait for a response. As soon as you talk to it, it's going to give you a response, even though it can be a little dumb sometimes. And frameworks, that's the intelligence piece. But right now, you need to provide the frameworks to ChatGPT most of the time. Otherwise, it's going to make up its own. So let's jump in, and we're going to start with using frameworks for processes and process building. So CSMs, we deal with a lot of unique scenarios. I definitely have in my 10 years. And I'm just curious, Angelika, do you have any good, unique examples, scenarios you've encountered?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember there was a customer pre-COVID. We flew in from Washington, D.C. to Clearwater Beach, Florida to meet with them to discuss their renewals and the next step in their implementation process. So it was me. I was the senior director of CS at the time. It was our co-founder. And then I also had our CSM with me in that meeting. And we sit down, and within 10 minutes, they have a team of 6 people who told us that they were not moving forward with what was a $1 million implementation and plus SaaS fees. And we were completely blindsided by it. And they wanted to develop the entire product offsite with their in-house developers. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do we turn this around?
Dang. Yeah, I think that's a great example of the different types of scenarios that we have to deal with in customer success. And processes are usually, this is what we build out to help us deal with these different things. Like, hey, maybe we needed to follow a process to build more value or to suss out any potential obstacles ahead of time. My guess is there was a big retrospective that happened after that conversation. But by standardizing the different aspects of like a process and an approach, we can say, hey, this is the standard approach, the sequence, the timing, the length, the scope. So we start to put these all in place to help us deal with all this complexity and novel scenarios that are bound to come up. And when new problems come up, CSMs, by our very nature, we want to fix them, right? We want to come up with a solution to that problem. That's why our customers really love us. So a new problem usually means a new process. So again, more work to do. Who and when and where and who's going to build this, all this stuff that's getting in the way. I definitely have lots of questions when people ask for new processes. So I'm going to show you how to build a process super fast within ChatGPT. So we're going to do a quick demo. And today's scenario is around building an executive sponsor change process. So if you have a customer and their executive sponsor leaves, there's a lot of risk there. And I want you to imagine, I'm a customer success operations person. My boss comes to me and says, hey, I want you to build a process around executive sponsor changes. And within that process, not only do I want the steps of like what needs to be done and when and who, but I also want email asset templates so the team knows what to send and when. I want a meeting agenda between the new executive and our team, clearly outlining what we need to capture, what we need to ask. And I also want a training plan so we can enable the rest of the customer success team. So in the past, this would probably take me like 16 hours to build, maybe more. And I'm going to show you just how fast ChatGPT can do this. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to copy and paste in some prompts. By the way, the ebook that I wrote has this in there. So you can totally steal this, use this. You can replace executive sponsor change with other things. But Angelika, what I'm actually doing to start is I'm giving some context around a framework called, and I'm going to zoom in here for everybody, SIPOC, which is from Six Sigma, which is a process optimization framework. And I'm just doing this so that ChatGPT kind of knows what I'm talking about in terms of the framework and the approach that I want to take. And then I'm going to give it context around the executive sponsor change. So, hey, what's an executive sponsor change in the SaaS industry? Again, just kind of like putting it in the right frame of mind, so to speak. You can do this in one prompt. It doesn't have to be two, but I'm just kind of breaking it out so that you can all follow along step by step.
So you're priming it essentially, like frog boiling.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. It's like, hey, I'm about to tell you stuff about executive sponsor change. Keep that in mind. We're going to work through that together. So it gives me a bunch of information. You could throw this into an SOP too, right? You could say, hey, here you go. This is what is the deal with executive sponsor changes. But what we really want is the process. This is what we're here for. So I'm telling it to use this framework of SciPoc to create an actual process, step-by-step process for this. So suppliers, that's, hey, who's giving us the information that we need? Current executive, your internal team, and then what information do we need? So specifically, we need transition information, we need historical customer data, and then the process. What are the steps sequentially that we're going to follow? Identify the new executive sponsor, arrange a meeting, understand their goals, reemphasize value. Got to do a little bit more value selling, unfortunately. And then try to set up some sort of regular check-in and realign on their goals. And then the outputs and the customers. What's actually coming out of this in terms of the process, and who is the customer of that process? Great. So now we have our draft of the process, the steps, all the information that a CSM would need. I'm a little bit more of a visual person, so I'm going to ask it to put it into a table. Oh, wait, sorry. I clicked the wrong one. Here we go. Here's a little trick for you. You can just replace that, save, submit. And now it gives me the steps. So like if I was building an SOP document, process document for an internal team, I would just put this at the very top. Be like, here you go. Like, here's the steps. And then you can get all the information below on the specifics. So now we have our process built, but we need to get that new executive on the phone. So I'm going to create a template for the team. This is an email to the new executive. And I'm using some frameworks here like before and after so that the CSM can start to seed a little bit of value of like, hey, you're a new company. Before they used us, we're experiencing this. And then after they started using us, they were able to accomplish this. So now we have the template for the CSM. If you're using some sort of platform like Gainsight or other, you can load this straight into that system. And then we need to let the internal team know. So we need an email template for that. And for this, I tell it to specifically call out, hey, we need to make sure we have a token for the actions we're taking. So the CSM knows, hey, I need to tell the team specifically what I'm doing so they understand. So now, Angelika, let's imagine CSM sent that email. The new executive wants to meet, but we need a meeting agenda, right? Can't show up to an executive call without an agenda. But we need to also make sure we're covering capabilities of our products, their current objectives, goals, obstacles, work streams. I also need to have the CSM come with some discovery questions. They need to be asking and doing some discovery. This is a new person. They might hate your product. They might have never heard of your product. You need to understand what their goals are. So now it drafts the agenda for us. So again, templatizing this, building this process for yourself, for your team. They don't have to do this from scratch every single time. And let's imagine that meeting went totally fine. Let's say you even used UpdateAI and it took your notes for you, which would be great. And then you can create a follow-up email template. By the way, UpdateAI creates the follow-up email for you, just for anybody that wants to save a few extra minutes of their day. So now we got our follow-up. I included another kind of like start, stop, keep framework of like, hey, we're going to start doing this. We're going to stop doing that. And we're going to keep doing this. So my guess is there would be that conversation that comes up in that call. And then one last step. We've got all our assets processed. That's all great. We got to train the team. They got to learn all about this. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT to take everything that I just explained to it and create a training plan for me for the team using this framework called Web Step Knowledge. And now we have an outline. I would go deeper on this. I'm going to cut it off here for the sake of time on today's webinar. But this gets you the first draft of like, all right, this is what I got to train the team on. Here's the outline. Here's the objectives. Here's, hey, we're going to do a multiple choice quiz. We're going to do a fill in the blank. You can even ask ChatGPT to just generate that for you. So you could say, hey, give me 5 questions for multiple choice. Give me 3 fill in the blanks, and it'll just generate it for you. Save you a ton of time building training. And Angelika, I know you know just how much time it takes to build training.
Yeah, and the enablement piece and getting it up on Confluence and then holding the team accountable to ensure that they're using the new processes. Super laborious, but ChatGPT takes us 95% of the way there by creating the templates, the agenda, and handing it to you essentially on a silver platter.
That's right. So in about 5 minutes, we went from nothing to a process, all the assets, a training plan. Again, I would go deeper if I was really building this for my company, but that gives you a sense of, hey, we turned this 16 hours into less than 10 minutes for all of these things to get. That was probably 85, 90% done. Like maybe a little tweaking here or there, throw it into a nice Confluence page or something like that. So to kind of recap the frameworks I used. So for the process, I used SciPoc. This comes from Six Sigma, which is like a lean manufacturing process optimization. There's tons of information on it on the internet within ChatGPT, Google, what have you. And then for the emails, did different things like before and after, start, stop, keep. And then for the agenda, calling out capabilities, objectives, goals, obstacles, work streams, making sure that we're covering those in the agenda. And then lastly, for the training plan, Web Step of Knowledge. Web Step of Knowledge is about helping you craft learning objectives that are appropriate for the level of skill you're looking for the learner to demonstrate. So if you're like, hey, just be able to repeat it versus I want you to be able to apply it. So if you're ever unsure what to use, like, hey, I want to use these frameworks. These are cool. Or I want a new one, or I need one, or I'm not sure. Ask ChatGPT. So you could say, hey, I am trying to come up with a training plan. What are some expert frameworks if you're an expert training, designer, instructional designer? And it'll give you some ideas. It'll get you started. So that's about building process. We can build it super fast, start to standardize, and get to all the benefits we talked about. Decreasing failure, increasing speed, increasing the quality. But let's talk about content and how does frameworks help with scaling content? So, Angelika, remember 7.1 billion words from earlier?
Sure do. Huge number.
So that is a lot. And everyone wants to know about what you know. Who, Angelika, in a normal SaaS organization, what are some other teams that like to learn from customer conversations?
Well, it's more like what business function doesn't want to learn from customers. So
that's true.
Definitely marketing for the G2 reviews, the case studies, definitely the product team on what should we build in the roadmap and the pipeline, the sales team, what should we level up, the executive team, the leadership team on why is a customer churning or what are the triggers for them to expand and upsell.
That's right. Angelika was not prepared to present this slide, but she did a pretty good job. Thank you. Obviously, there's more than just the teams here, but I'm just calling out a few. And they all want those different things. You know them. We as CSMs, we know all of these things, but we're busy doing all the other things. Putting us together a spreadsheet of product feedback, useful, important, but super, super time consuming. So today's scenario, how we're going to scale content using ChatGPT is I am going to show you how to generate content from a QBR. Now I'm using a QBR, but it could be a check-in call. It could be a strategic annual planning session, could be an implementation call, anything. The The purpose is you're having that conversation. There's a ton of content in that conversation already. We just have to figure out how to extract it. So how I'm going to do this, I did use UpdateAI to help. I took a transcript from a real QBR with one of UpdateAI's customers with their permission. I've obfuscated and changed and anonymized all the data. So anything you see here today is not customer information for that customer, but I'm going to throw it into ChatGPT with a bunch of prompts to extract a bunch of content that not only you can use as a customer success manager, but your various stakeholders in marketing and product can. So let me jump in here and we will get started. Again, I'll zoom in. I'm going to hit start on this so that it gets working, and then I'll go back up and walk you through it. So this is the pasted transcript. If I'm the CSM in this case, I work for Talent Scouts United, and my customer is Pinnacle Equity. And the prompt I'm using, this is all the transcript below. The prompt I'm using is, number one, I'm giving it a persona. So I tell ChatGPT, hey, you're a customer success manager, and I need you to write a follow-up report for QBR. Angelika, when you do a QBR, how long is your follow-up administrative work for that QBR?
Oh my God, at least 60 minutes of what are all the talking points that every single leader said on that call. Yeah, what are the deliverables I need to do for all of these talking points to address them?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's like an hour call plus it's like 2 hours of work for an hour-long call.
For sure.
So I'm asking ChatGPT to use some different frameworks like pyramid principle, taking that transcript, write up a straightforward plan, make it actionable, make it appropriate for executives, for any actions or next steps. I want you to prepare the immediate follow-up action, and I want you to prioritize the list using Getting Things Done framework by David Allen. So it should be done already. Let's look at this. Let's see how it did. So here's a little write-up, our recent QBR, highlighted the areas. We're going to capitalize on the network. Here's the problem and solution, next steps. Here's developing tangible products, problem, solution, next steps. Building a top-tier firm. By the way, this is all related to the product and what they do. This would look different if you were to MarTech or, healthcare, what have you. Improving data quality and freshness, problem, solution, next steps, increasing platform usage, and then prioritization. So here's what we're going to do immediately based off of what just came out of this QBR. So that's step one, taking your hour of administrative work, putting this all in a nice format, figuring out prioritization, who does what, all that good stuff. You could even ask ChatGPT, hey, wait, who was on the hook for this? And it'll give you a very, very good answer. But then let's think about product. Product probably has, I'm going to go to marketing next. Copying and pasting the wrong one. We're going to do product after marketing. So same thing, giving it a persona. You're an expert content marketer. Take the transcript, come up with a short case study, and I want you to take inspiration from the 5-act structure of storytelling. That's the whole I am frozen. Thank you, Sherry. Whoop. Let's do this. Let's do that. Better?
Looking good, Mickey. Unfrozen.
There we go. I use my iPhone as a webcam, and sometimes it likes to do that for some reason. So the whole 5-act story structure, which is like the rising tension, and then we accomplished it and everything's good now. So we have this, hey, this is their goal. Pinnacle Equities, a prominent investment firm, and they have a goal, but there's a problem and there's a solution, and we're the solution. And here's what's moving towards success. And here's where we can continue to make continuous improvement. So this is something you could just hand straight off to your marketing team, saying, here's an awesome case study from our client. We just had a QBR with them an hour ago, and we already have a case study that's almost ready to go. But in my prompt, I actually put a little bit of a safeguard. And I said, hey, if there's any missing pieces, I want you to call those out because I don't want you to make things up. But if we're missing something, let me know so that we can go investigate, ask questions, or fill in the blanks where necessary. So after it gave me this amazing case study ready to go, now we have missing pieces that we can add. Quantitative metrics, okay, maybe we have them. We have them, stored in our CRM or something. We just need to add them in where appropriate. Testimonials, specific examples, all that good stuff. I even asked it to include a quote. So it gave me a quote in there. This is not pretty. Obviously, you're not posting this straight to your blog. Work with your design folks, or if you're designing inclined. But
and
now,
Mickey,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the other thing I like that you did is you prompted it with the tone that you wanted to use. And then you also wrote, please exclude the following, I think in a further prompt.
Yes. For those that were on the beginner session or have read the ebook, constraints, like telling it what not to do, is just as important as telling it what to do. If your company has like a brand or a style guide, you can even include that to say, hey, it's supposed to be very engaging, very, conversational.
Yeah. So just to call out, Mickey wrote, write it in a positive tone, using simple jargon. And I thought that was a really cool prompt.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the way that we would want to talk or converse with people. So now we got marketing, right? Now let's talk about product. And for product, they care about things like, is this a training issue? Is this an enhancement? Is this more of a strategic decision? Like they have options, they have to choose how to use our product, or is it potentially bugs? So take that transcript, start to categorize and give data and details around these different areas so we can share this directly with our product team. So again, QBR just happened. We took the transcript, we throw it in here. It's generating all of this content. And then lastly, but certainly not least, you can actually just use this to come up with the proposed agenda for next time. Because we already know all the stuff we talked about, action items, projects, what are we doing now? What are we doing later? Who it belongs to? So we already know what is the next one going to be about. And my guess is this will make it way more tangible for those folks to say, oh, I want to attend that next call because we're going to have to follow up on these things. So we're going to have to make more decisions.
I'm expecting a lot of head explosion emojis hitting the chat right now.
Or if their head has literally exploded, then they won't be able to chat. I know it's a little morbid, sorry. So now we have a bunch of happy customers. Case studies done for marketing. They're super happy. Then we have the feedback for products. You didn't have to come up with some spreadsheet and go through that whole rigmarole, which I've done, which I don't like. This is better. And then, of course, we have a clear plan for the customer. They're going to love that. Not only is it clearly laid out, quick, but it's also prioritized. We've got priorities. We know what we're doing, why we're doing it, who's doing it, when we're doing it. And I know that all of that would take a ton of time for an individual to do, time that you do not have. So again, frameworks I used, pyramid principle. This comes from Barbara Minto of McKinsey. It's just like a means of communicating like, hey, problem, solution, evidence. Then there's prioritizations. This comes from Getting Things Done by David Allen. And then I use the 5-act story structure for the use case. So that's the whole rising action. And then lastly, for a product, I just made it a categorization. Like, hey, they care about these 4 things. Which of these things fall into those buckets? So the future. I do think in the future, every single Slack, email, phone call, every piece of communication is going to be filtered through AI in one form or another. And it's going to be doing a lot of these things for you. So I want you to imagine like you just had a QBR. You don't even have to do those prompts. It will know that, hey, there was a good moment where there was a really good quote and we want to use that in our blog. and it just packages it up, sends it off to approval from a marketing person. There's the agenda, sends it to you and says, does that look good? Yep, looks great. This will unlock, and I know there's a lot of anxiety around this for sure. I actually think that this is going to unlock us to do more interesting things. It's going to allow us to be more creative. It's going to allow us to focus on higher impact things. Having a conversation with another human is not something that AI is going to do for us anytime soon because they are not intelligent enough to do it. But coming up with an agenda, writing up your notes, those are all things that, and it is kind of amazing, are going to quickly become a thing of the past. So there are a lot of current limitations. This should hopefully make you feel a little bit better, but also answer some lingering questions around all of these different topics. There's this problem of, hey, it's kind of manual, right? Like you have to come up with the prompts, you have to put it in, you have to do it all yourself. I think there will be this future at some point where it's kind of always on. Like it, like your company buys you this like personal digital assistant and it's always looking in ways it can help you. And then, of course, there's the expense piece. These tools are much cheaper than they used to be, but they're still quite expensive. This will come down over time. And then there's security. I know this is a big question for a lot of people. There are many, many companies working on this right now, including OpenAI, Amazon, Google. This will probably take the form of like dedicated walled off instances that don't have the ability to like lose information outside of your company, plus the ability to remove information like, hey, this looks like a credit card number. We're just going to remove it from the conversation so that we don't, accidentally give away somebody's credit card number. And then, of course, context, specifics around your company, your customer, your situation. That all is likely going to come from custom training in the long run. But again, that is still expensive. Not many companies have the amount of data and resources and expertise to pull it off. So right now we are limited, but still, of course, given this amazing technology that is very general and broad. So for now, with all those limitations and all the things we know, is that we're still going to have to hold the hand of this generative AI a little bit. And yes, this was generated by AI, by myself in Midjourney. I put 99.9% AI generated because like I gave it the prompt. It did everything else. I don't know how much credit I should get. But to recap,
you were the brains behind the design.
That's right.
Concept. You prompted it.
I prompted it. Not all the people that, all the works it was based off of. So just to recap what we covered today, we need to rethink CS. If we're going to scale this thing, if we're going to get past this current environment that's really tough. And to do that, I think we need to scale our content, help our other peers in other areas of the organization. Because, as an example with like the case study, if that brings in one more customer, that helps the company, that helps secure your role, that helps bring value. And then, of course, around process building, like that's always going to be important: quality, speed, reducing failure. And then, of course, we talked about frameworks, which I think this is a really, really powerful way to use ChatGPT to give it more intelligence. Because if there's a way to approach a topic, a project, a manner, use that instead of coming up with it on your own. And then we went through these demonstrations, the process building for executive sponsor change, and then, of course, turning QBRs into content for 3 different stakeholders. And if you would like all this information, the ebook does include, it's actually missing the content stuff because that's new. I did not have that. I did not come up with that until after the ebook, but I'm happy to share this with you if you connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm giving all this away. This is not something I'm charging for. So again, I thank you all. I'm happy to answer questions that came up in the Q&A and hang on here for another 15-ish minutes or so.
Yes, if you have questions, please drop them into the Q&A and please upvote the questions you would like Mickey to answer. And Mickey, we just got 3 in, so I'll go ahead and start with those as people post their questions and upvote. The first one came from Monica, and she asked, can you ask ChatGPT to generate diagrams or just tables and spreadsheets?
Yeah, so there actually is plugins for diagrams. It won't generate it itself. But if you have ChatGPT Plus, you can do the plugins. I'm still sharing my screen, right? Yeah. And Lucid, for instance, which is a common company, has a plugin. So you could say, use Lucid plugin to generate a diagram of how to make a PB&J sandwich. We'll give it a second there. To be honest, I've seen it kind of struggle with diagrams. I haven't tested them enough to know, is that a limitation on the tool side, or am I just not giving the right instructions for creating a diagram? Of course, it's having trouble. So while that's doing that, we can go to the next question.
Yep. Christy asked, any recommendations for dealing with leadership resistance for adopting AI tools?
Sorry, I'm laughing because ChatGPT, the plugin just doesn't want to work. And I don't know if that is ChatGPT itself or Lucid, the company. Yeah, recommendations for dealing with resistance to adopting AI tools. Same thing, how you would work with your customers. Ask questions, try to understand what the real objection behind the objection is. Is it security, privacy? Are you in a government space or a highly regulated space? Their concerns might be warranted. Or are they just, they don't want to be on the forefront of new technology? We all have worked and dealt with those people. We might be those people. That's okay. Just because you don't want to be on the forefront doesn't mean you're wrong. So I would say ask questions, understand why, understand, is there a place for you to experiment, and what's the risk to the company? Because, you don't want to put your job at risk, but I also think you should be participating and you should be experimenting.
Exactly. Divya asked, what are the different ways to learn more about how to come up with the best prompts?
Number one, read that ebook. In the ebook, I'm going to try this one again. I also, in the ebook, I give you a bunch of practical getting started help. I also tell you about the people that I've learned from, experts in data science and other fields. So I would suggest, there we go. I would suggest starting there. But then really the best way is just playing with it, learning, practicing, trying. Takes probably between 5 and 10 hours to really start to get the hang of it. But I really think that you'll get much, much better really quick.
And Sarah asked, how important do you think it is to have a paid ChatGPT account, which I believe is $20 a month versus the free version?
Yeah, I think it's very important. If you can swing $20 a month, I highly, highly suggest it. I get much more value than $20 a month out of the tool, but I understand everybody's situation is different. The ways in which it's really been helpful, number one, you get priority access. So there's that. Number two, you get access to GPT-4, which is a much stronger quality tool. And the last, but definitely not the least, is you get access to plugins, one of which is called Code Interpreter, which I use to help with data analysis, like simple, fast things that I can do, but it would take me an hour, and it takes ChatGPT 3 minutes.
Yeah, and what Mickey means by priority access is, let's say there's too many users on the platform. It will give access to those that are paying the $20 a month. So the free users, you basically can't prompt it until there's less users on the platform. And you could always go month to month and then cancel if it doesn't suffice.
That's right.
Jess asked, how robust is the ChatGPT knowledge about customer success?
Yeah, kind of. It's hard to answer exactly, because the more broad and general your question, the more broad and general the information you get. I've also seen it a lot, like unless you're being specific, it'll start to conflate with support, with customer support. So anytime you're working with these tools, just as you saw me do today, the more specific, the more context you give it, the better. So don't rely on it to be super contextually accurate, but push it towards what you're trying to accomplish.
And then Heather asked, can you use meeting recordings as the transcripts for QBR meeting recaps?
You cannot upload video directly. There is wide speculation that that will be possible in the future, but for now, it needs to be in a text format. So you would need it to be transcribed. And
Hyro asked, what software are you using for your presentations, Mickey? They are sleek.
Google Slides. Nothing fancy.
There you have it. Vicky asked, she said that she has a paid account, but she's still learning. Is there a way to upload an entire spreadsheet and have AI analyze the data and build graphics for her or graphs for her?
Yeah, using code interpreter. So yeah, try it, like upload a spreadsheet and just ask it, give me a descriptive analysis of this data, and obviously validate. It shows you its work, but that's the best way. Kelly, no, the paid version doesn't have more recent data. That's more of a limitation of just when they trained it.
And then David asked, do you feel that as AI advances, do you believe that it will affect human creativity and put limitations on what we wish to create?
I'm getting philosophical. I love it. I don't think so, actually. I think that if I didn't have to, fold my laundry, I could use that time in other places. So I actually think the net impact on society is we will actually be more creative.
And then someone from LinkedIn asked, Patricia from LinkedIn, do you know if there are any AI research going into keeping more data in the short-term memory versus the current limitations of what she believes to be 3,000 words in a ChatGPT conversation?
Yes. Yes, there are current tools like Anthropic's Claude, which is a competitor that has a much longer, what's called context window. However, there's also research that shows that a longer context window doesn't necessarily mean better quality. Here's an example. I have talked about a lot of different things in the last 45 minutes. And if I asked you, what did Mickey talk about 25 minutes ago? Could you recall that right now if I put you on the spot? Maybe, but it would be hard. The theory is that same thing kind of might be happening to ChatGPT or large language models when you put in a ton of context. But for the record, 100,000 words, 1,000,000 words, there really is no theoretical limit that we know of right now. Can it build business plans? It can, but I would suggest that you use some sort of framework. Like, what would be a good business plan for my specific business in my specific area? What are the questions I need to ask myself? Divya, I use GPT-4. So I pay the $20 a month. I also have access to the API that I use for my own testing. What kind of settings do we need to have for the most successful use of ChatGPT/beta features? You just need to make sure you have plugins turned on, which is in the settings of your ChatGPT account, which you only get access to if you're paying the $20 a month. Most of the plugins, to be honest, are kind of garbage. So the rule of thumb I use is like, if it's a reputable company that built the plugin, it's probably going to be reputable. And actually, I should have called out earlier, Wikipedia is a plugin for ChatGPT. So you can actually get access, and that's from Wikipedia. That's not like a third-party hacky one. How important is it to have transcripts of customer conversations? Well, I'm biased because that's part of what UpdateAI does. I think it's one of the most important things for customer success now moving forward. When I try to create an account, there's no submit button on UpdateAI. Dean, I will get back to you. Thanks for letting me know.
Christy asked if ChatGPT plugins only work for a paid subscription, and the answer is yes to that.
Correct. Limitations of, too many tokens, limitations. So here's how we actually do it at UpdateAI within like our app, is we actually chunk it. So we say like, here's the first chunk, summarize this. Here's the second chunk, summarize this. Here's the third chunk, summarize this. We do that all for you on the back end through UpdateAI. But if you're using it yourself, you'll have to kind of do that on your own. Olivia purchased Ask AI app. Yeah, it's the same. They're just using 3.5. They're probably just using 3.5 under the hood because 4 is much more expensive. It's unlikely for $69 lifetime access that they're doing anything more for you there. Could GPT version of CSM replace the trusted advisor component? I hate to say it, but I think that that's a possibility. But what I will say is that as things change, will humans be able to keep up with it more? Will humans want to interact with humans? There's a lot of unanswered questions there. But I think it is possible. Yeah. And Kelly says, can you... Oh, go ahead, Angelika.
Oh, I was just going to say one thing that I wanted to add regarding the trusted advisor is that people still do want to have a humanizing experience. They want to see and hear the voice behind the email. They want to like see you live on Zoom and have like a real conversation in real time. So I also wouldn't negate the fact that you'll always have people who want to have that interpersonal relationship with you and feel the disposition and the personality and the energy that comes behind having a real conversation.
Absolutely. Kelly asked, can you share how tokens work? The easiest way to think about tokens is whether it's a space or a return line or a letter or a word, those are all count. So like the rule of thumb is 100 tokens is around 75 words. And there's lots of great information online on that too. Thoughts on Bard? You can definitely use it for more recent data. In terms of quality of the underlying technology, ChatGPT right now, GPT-4 is better, but there are known projects going on in Google that are rumored to potentially leapfrog OpenAI. I mean, let's not forget, Google has some of the best talent in the world when it comes to AI. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on them there. Sensitive information. Yeah, you should definitely be careful. But the kind of tip I always give is if it matters for legal, safety or ethical reasons, then you should probably consult a professional, ask for permission. And then if you're unsure, you should also ask yourself, like, are you willing to put yourself in some semblance of risk? Because like if you put in a customer's information, but it's not a big deal, it's like their preference on chips, who cares? But if it's, specific proprietary information, that could, just like, leaving your customer's money laying around, that could get you in trouble. And then from a legal standpoint, we need to be super careful when recording customer conversations. Everyone needs to be aware. Yeah, of course. So like UpdateAI, how we handle that is we use Zoom's authorization flow. So when somebody logs in, they are immediately prompted with, you are being recorded. And that way they know that there is a recording happening and it's documented authorization. All righty.
Amazing.
Is that it? Is that all?
It is, but I think we peppered you with about 20 questions in rapid fire lightning speed.
Let's do it.
We did that lightning round and you did a knockout job, Mickey.
Thank you, everybody. Well, I really appreciate all the time.
Well, we are at the end of the hour. I want to thank all of our guests. So Mickey, you're the MVP here for joining me today. I hope you got something out of our discussion today, and we will see you at our next ChatGPT event on August 10th. So save the date, where we will discuss how to increase your productivity utilizing ChatGPT. And you can check out our website at successcoaching.co to find out more and sign up. Have a great rest of your day and week. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you.